And I can see it's 9 o'clock, but as people are joining, because people will still be rolling in, I want to welcome everyone. It's wonderful to be with you this morning, or I guess it's noon if you're on the East Coast, so this afternoon. I'm Sarah Jones. I'm the CEO of Parkinson Movement Disorder Alliance. We're really excited to bring this to you again. Dr. Isaacson shared this topic with us. Boy, it's been about a month now. I couldn't believe it's already been about a month since we did this when I looked at my calendar. But I will tell you, we had follow-up comments from this. People loved it. And there were many people that said, when can I view this? Because they want to watch it again. So I'm really glad, because this is, for some people, this is a really new process, this whole telemedicine. So I'm excited that you're going to get to hear from Dr. Isaacson as he shares kind of what telemedicine is, how to use it, and then also this is meant to be interactive, so we want to hear your questions. We want to hear from you. And so at the end, we're definitely going to want that to be a part of what we do. When we do that, I'm going to give you just a little more instruction at that time too, because you're welcome to use the chat, but you're also welcome to use the video. And we can't encourage you enough to do that. So if you're new to Zoom, if you're new to telemedicine, this is your opportunity to practice using video and talking on video. So we're going to be encouraging you to do that too. Couple quick things. In your Zoom platform screen, if you're new to Zoom, you either have a view that looks like the Brady Bunch with a whole bunch of little boxes, or you have just my big face talking, one or the other. I don't know which. But if you want to switch that view, if you go to the right corner, if you click, it'll say either speaker view or gallery view. And if you click that, it's going to take you back and forth. So you can go back and forth for fun if you want, or you can stay just on the main view. Okay, so that's just going to get us started. I am, again, really excited to have the opportunity for you guys to hear from Dr. Isaacson. He is an outstanding speaker, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about him. He's a board-certified neurologist who specializes in Parkinson's disease and movement disorders. Dr. Isaacson is the medical director of the Parkinson Research and Education Foundation, which is a nonprofit whose mission is to support research initiatives, education and wellness programs, support groups, and social services. He also does outreach for people, patients and caregivers in the Parkinson's disease community. And the focus of this organization is to develop new medications that halt the progression of Parkinson's and serve to treat its symptoms. So Dr. Isaacson also runs a private neurology practice in the Boca Raton area and is a fellow of the National Institute of Health. He has incredible expertise. He's a national speaker and has spoken all over the country and actually all over the world. And so it is my pleasure to hand it over to you, Dr. Isaacson. Thanks for being with us today, and take it away.
Great. Can I hear that one more time, that introduction?
It was
Very
like
nice.
A lot to take in, wasn't it? Yeah.
That was a very nice introduction. Thank you. Well, I'm glad to be here with everyone today, at least virtually. What happened here to my, let's see. Oops, it's not over. Trust me, it's not over. Let me see what I did here. Okay, I see.
Restart, yep. And for all of you that are new to telemedicine, I guarantee you, I have been doing these programs for like a very long time, hundreds of them. And every time I go meet with a different doctor on telemedicine, it's a new experience. So don't give up. You just keep working with it. So, okay, take it away.
Okay, you can see the screen now?
We can.
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm glad to be here with you all to really talk about something that has very quickly emerged as a important thing to know about Parkinson's disease. And I know over the years and all of these types of events and meetings and all the work that's done by the Alliance to understand and educate and inform about Parkinson's. And now we have something new to talk about and to educate about, and that's telemedicine. And what we want to try to do is to give the idea that telemedicine is something that is easy to do. it's just like a regular visit in the office when you see your doctor or nurse. So we put together these slides, Professor Power and Dr. Lyons and myself, along with US World Meds, a company that markets several medicines to treat Parkinson's disease, to try to give in one place the idea of how simple telemedicine can be, because you need to be able to communicate and take care of your Parkinson's disease, even with COVID, even with self-isolation, even with quarantining. Your Parkinson's disease can't be ignored. You have to continue to be able to treat the symptoms and adjust the medications as need be. We've worked with a lot of different companies, and in this instance, US World Meds, together we were able to put together this program that we hope will be educational for you all. When we think about telemedicine, there's several things that I think you want to be able to think about. And they're listed here on the slide. And what we're trying to do now is to think about, what is telemedicine? How do you connect to the telemedicine appointment? And what should you do to prepare for a visit? How can you share your symptoms and then participate in the examination? And most importantly, how can you, your family, your caregivers, your aides, whoever's involved in your Parkinson's, share together in the decision-making that occurs so you get the best answers to all of your problems? And we'll review that at the end. So what is telemedicine? Well, think about telemedicine as going to your doctor or nurse's office and seeing them. But instead of actually getting in your car and going there, you're going to connect on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer, and you're going to see a picture of your doctor, and they're going to see a picture of you. On the left, you can see what the doctor I would see. I would see you, and then you would see me in a little, I'd see myself in a little square. On the right-hand side, you would see me like you're doing now, or the slides now, and then you'd have yourself in a little picture there. And every type of telemedicine might be different. Some offices might use FaceTime or Skype or Zoom or something called Doxy. It might come through your electronic medical record. You might have an app on your phone. It doesn't matter how you connect, because what you'll see is that it's important how you prepare and what you say. Anyone can connect. You may get an email or a text, or someone might just call you in order to connect in this way. If you don't have a camera, the Medicare has now allowed telephone visits to be done. And this is something very new, just in the past week or two. And you could actually do a whole visit by telephone without a camera if you don't have a camera available, but most people hopefully will. So how do you connect for the appointment? Well, you'll probably get contacted a week or two, or a day or 2 days before your appointment, not only to confirm that the time is a good time and the day is a good time, good day, but also to let you know whether you have to be ready for a phone call or be ready to expect the text that you're going to click on, or whether you have to go to an app or an email and connect, and whether it's going to be done on your web browser or just on your phone. And I'm sure that your office, the offices that you see with your doctors and nurses, will explain this to you. I know ours does, and prepares beforehand to make sure that you know what's going to be and then how to do it. But it's important that you prepare and think about the visit the day before at least. You want it to be just like a visit in person. You want to expect your doctors and nurses to evaluate all your symptoms, your tremor, your walking, your balance, but also your non-motor symptoms of memory and constipation and sleepiness during the day and trouble sleeping at night, or whatever symptoms you might have. And you want to think about, where are you going to be and what are you going to use? And remember, you can choose to use a laptop, a computer, an iPad, your telephone, a smartphone, any type of a thing can be used. And you might want to also make sure that someone's there with you, because sometimes you can prop up these devices or already on stands and you can adjust the camera to see you, or sometimes you might need someone to hold it for you, so that you can be on the camera, especially during the examination when you might be walking. Think about where you want to sit for the thing. You don't want to be in the bathroom, for instance. You might want to be at the kitchen table, but but make sure it's a place where there's lights can be put on, that there's not a bright window behind you, or if there is, you might want to close the blinds so there's not a big glare. Try to think of where the chair is and where the camera is. You might want to practice with a family member. If there's a place where you can walk behind, that's great. Or a place you can walk and someone could hold the camera. That could be very helpful to examine you as well. And don't forget that this is going to be an easy experience. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can just be good. And we can hear what you have to say and see what we need to examine, even if it's not perfect. We may ask you during the visit to move the camera, to fix the lighting, or to bring someone closer, or to speak up, or to fix the microphone. You might have to click to make the microphone work or the video work. We might have to hang up and call back. It doesn't matter. We'll be able to get through, to connect with you, and to get the visit done. But try to be prepared. Think about having all your medication bottles out on the table, wherever you're going to sit for the visit. Have a copy of your medication schedule. Try to keep some notes for a day or two before about what's changed since your last visit. What types of motor symptoms and non-motor symptoms are you experiencing? And importantly, how do you respond to the medications? It's not just the tremor and stiffness and slowness and getting out of a chair and out of a car that's important. You write down those notes, but also write down about these other symptoms, the so-called non-motor symptoms. Write down if you're having any trouble with your memory, if you see or hear things that aren't there, if you're feeling down or if you're anxious, if you don't have the motivation, or if you have unusual compulsive urges, if you stand up and feel lightheaded, if your balance isn't up to par or you're actually falling. Let people know if you need help to dress or to bathe, to cook, to prepare food, whether you need a walker or a cane. Do you get sleepy during the day? Do you have a lack of energy? Do you have trouble sleeping at night or wake up too many times? Do you have vivid dreams or kick and shout and fight and act out your dreams? We now know that all these non-motor symptoms are part of Parkinson's disease itself, and we need to address them at every visit and not ignore them just because you're isolating and quarantining. We have to make sure we address these at the telemedicine visit. Also, think about when you take your Carbidopa Levodopa. Think about what times you take them at. How are you in the morning when you first wake up? Are you slow to get out of bed? Do you have trouble getting up and moving about? When do you take your first dose of Carbidopa Levodopa? How long does it take to work? How do you know it's working? What gets better when it begins to work? How long does that improvement last for? What happens when it stops working well? What symptoms first come back? What symptoms get worse? And how long do you wait before you take your next dose? How long does that next dose take to work? And so on for each dose throughout the day. If you can think about writing down on a sheet of paper all these types of symptoms and when they occur, it'll really help your doctors and nurses to adjust your medications so you have the on effect, the good effect from the medicine more during the day, more consistently during the day. If you have dyskinesia when the medicines are working too much, point that out as well. We might want to adjust the medications or add other medicines to stop them. When do the dyskinesias occur? Is it more in the morning or the evening or throughout the day? All these types of changes and fluctuations throughout the day are very, very important. And once you tell all your symptoms and go over your notes, then your doctor will examine you. And once you're on the camera, we might not be able to see your hands, or maybe we'll see one arm and not the other arm. We might ask you to move over a little bit. We might ask you to move closer or further from the camera. We might ask you to tap your fingers, open and close your fists, tap your feet, stand up, to walk, just like we do in a regular visit in a regular office. If you have a place where the camera can see you walking, that really would be great. But if you don't, it's okay. We can still do the examination. It won't be too much of a problem. Make sure your list includes not only the motor symptoms and the non-motor symptoms and the fluctuations in the off episodes and when you have on and good on and dyskinesia, but also write down all the questions that you want to ask your doctors and nurses at the visit. Write down all the medications that you need refills for. Put it all on a separate sheet of paper so that when it comes time to talk about what should be done, you'll get all your problems answered and hopefully have your treatments adjusted so you can do better. You should think about having anyone who else wants to give information about what they see or what they feel to give information at this time. It's a great time to have relatives, family, children, whatnot to come onto the call. They can also get these links and they can also be part of the visits, even if they live in other states or other parts of the country. Talking together with you, your caregivers, your family, your doctors and nurses is what shared clinical decision making means. It's not the doctor who decides. We have to be all in it together to find out the best answers. We have so many medications nowadays, probably over 20 or 25 medicines that are approved by the FDA already. We have another 25 or more that are in trials on and new ones that are being approved. We had a new medicine for Parkinson's approved 3 weeks ago, and another one should be approved by the FDA tomorrow. So really important to writing down your symptoms, write down all your questions, but be prepared to discuss all the different medication options that you might want to think about. Think about how your days are going. You may be less active, but if your balance is impaired when you're making breakfast in the kitchen or taking a shower, it may need to be addressed. Think about what medications, your exercise, what you're doing, and when the medications need to be taken. And finally, we want to make sure that you know that this is a very simple thing to do. Look at how many people are on this call now. It's the same thing with telemedicine. But instead of me talking to you, you'll be talking to your doctors and nurses and such. Be prepared. Look the day before to set everything up. Know if you're going to get a text or a call. Call the office and then make sure you have all the information. Keep a list of all of your symptoms and problems. Keep your medicine bottles handy. Keep another list of all the questions you want answered. And be ready to participate in the examination. And most importantly, make sure before you hang up on the telemedicine call that all of your questions are answered and that all of your problems are being addressed. And don't ignore treating your Parkinson's just because we have the COVID situation now. Your Parkinson's is more important than that. You can't be isolated. So make sure you get these visits, whether by video. If you don't have a video connection, you can use a telephone. But make sure you schedule these. Don't put them off for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 months just because of COVID. Because together you can make the best decisions to keep your Parkinson's under control now. And don't forget before you hang up the phone to get the prescriptions refilled and also to make your next appointment. And we're lucky because of Medicare being able to cover a lot of the telemedicine now. We're able to make the next appointment sooner to see how the changes we make in the medications might be doing. And maybe you'll be able to see your doctors and nurses more frequently or get in sooner if you're able to do this with the telemedicine. So I think that's all the slides that we wanted to cover, but I'm happy to answer any questions or any thoughts or concerns at this point.
Wonderful. Well, we did have a couple questions come in. So while I'm going to read those to you, while other people, you can type in the questions, but also, like I said, feel free to just talk as well. To do that, you're just going to unmute yourself and talk, and we will hear you. And if we can't, we will figure it out with you. So a couple questions that came up. One is, can you discuss what shared decision-making sounds like from the physician perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, it's important to have words, and shared decision-making are words, but it's also important to have the meaning behind the words. And what shared clinical decision-making means is that when I see a patient, whether it's in the office, at a regular visit, or on screen, and they walk in and they have some tremor in their right hand, I don't think to myself, I have to fix that tremor. When my patient's there because they're sleepy during the day, they're in trouble with their memory, they have trouble walking and they have freezing, and the first dose of the morning takes too long to work. It's talking to our patients together on an even playing field and understanding how in your lives does Parkinson's affect your days, your activities, the symptoms you have, and then making decisions together on how many medicines to take, how much they cost, when you can take them, do you remember to take them, what symptoms we want to treat, what are the potential side effects? Is there a trade-off? Will the medicine improve walking but make you sleepier? Or is there another medicine that won't make you sleepy but can improve walking? So it's trying to understand how Parkinson's affects you, each individual person, a personalized approach to Parkinson's medications and treatments and rehabilitative therapies to try to get the best treatment plan after the visit is completed.
Perfect. Okay. And then also, somebody asked, whoops, hang on a second. There we go. What if your doctor doesn't want to share and listen to you?
Well, it's a free country, still apparently, and you have to find a doctor that's willing to share in the decision making with you. Because, as doctors, we only see you for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes. It's not enough time. Not enough time in a day, much less a week, a month, 3 months, or 6 months. We have to understand what your life is like. Do you play golf regularly? How does it affect your golf game? Golf is a great way to judge if the medications are being given at the right amount. We have medicines nowadays that can make the Carbidopa Levodopa work better. We have medicines that can make a dose last longer. We have longer acting Carbidopa Levodopas. We have medicines that prevent the breakdown of Carbidopa Levodopa in the brain or in the bloodstream. We have medicines that don't work on dopamine, so they don't tend to cause sleepiness, that can be added to make it work longer. We have medicines you can use on demand, only when you have symptoms that need to get better quickly, in minutes, sometimes. An injection of a medicine and an inhaled form of levodopa. And we have a new one coming tomorrow that'll be approved that goes under the tongue. We hope it'll be approved. We have new medications coming that are pumps and all sorts of different medicines. So we really want to be able to personalize that for each person and to understand that it has to be a two-way and a combined and a shared decision making. So we get the best answers for each individual person. And if your doctor and nurses don't have the time, then you'll need to find other doctors and nurses that do.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because it really is a long-term relationship you guys enter into, and that synergy, I think sometimes we forget that synergy matters, right, with the doctor. I mean, that's how you get the best care and the best experience for both.
You have to be comfortable, and you have to have trust, and sometimes you have to meet different people, and depending on who you are, and telemedicine is a great time, because with telemedicine you can maybe able to meet different doctors that you hadn't been able to get into before, because the schedules were too booked for months and months and months. And now with telemedicine, the schedules are often much more open, and because of the relaxed rules under Medicare, many people can get other opinions very readily on telemedicine. So if you think it's something that you're having a problem and it's not being addressed, it's a good time to get another opinion while you're at home.
Oh, great point. And I'm going to actually pipe in with a quick question. If you can share with people, now is a really good time to make sure too, if you have not been able to see a movement disorder specialist because maybe you don't live nearby one or don't know where one is. Some people don't really even know what a movement disorder specialist is. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand, because now's the time that everybody with telemedicine, and as you mentioned, the rules are relaxed, everybody has an opportunity to see a movement disorder specialist now.
Well, it's really true. So there's been suggestions that if you're not having good answers to the problems of Parkinson's, whether it's motor symptoms or non-motor symptoms, or the on and off fluctuations that can occur, or dyskinesia, or balance, or memory, or any of these problems, you can get another opinion. And then there are people who are movement disorder specialists who only see Parkinson's. I see 15 Parkinson's people in a day, and people who are general neurologists but do a lot of Parkinson's might see 5 or 6 in a day, and someone who's a general neurologist regularly might see 1 or 2 people with Parkinson's in a day. So you can see that the experience and the knowledge of the different medications might be more in someone who sees more Parkinson's, and that's really what a movement disorder specialist means. They also may have more training just in Parkinson's and also may spend more time reading and keeping up on new things or attending different types of meetings and all. But the most important thing is to have a doctor and nurse who listens to you and has the time to take care of all of your problems and continue to try new things, because there's so many new things. We've had about a dozen new medicines in the past 4 years. So if you're having problems, it's probably worthwhile to make sure you're trying new things.
Yeah, and thank you. And I can't help but put in a plug that now is definitely the time. We would not consider, if you were diagnosed with cancer, you would never consider seeing a doctor who did not have a deep understanding about the cancer diagnosis. I mean, everybody's always looking for the best cancer specialist, and you deserve the exact same thing with your movement disorder. And so a movement disorder physician is just a really, really important person in the care team. And I just put in the chat a link. If you need to find a movement disorder specialist near you, that links you up to people across the country. There's a link that you can put in your zip code. It takes you to the Movement Disorder Society, and you can find someone near you, and you can always reach out to us and we'll help you link up. Okay, so let me see. We have another couple questions here. Can I record the visit? I expect the MD would have to agree.
So you'd have to ask, whether you can record the visit, either on video or on audio, and you have to make sure you have 2 devices, so your device is able to record. So you'd have to ask and see.
Perfect. Okay. I see my movement disorder specialist 4 times a year in person. Can I see them more on Telemed, or will the same limits apply? Is that up to the office or insurance? That's a great question.
Well, I mean, it's a great question. It's an unfortunate question.
Mm-hmm.
The answer should be, it's up to you. Mm-hmm. It's up to you to see your doctors and nurses as frequently as you think you need to get your questions answered. A lot of questions, for a variety of reasons, are answered on the phone, which is probably not ideal because there's not enough time to ask you everything we need to know and to really see what you're doing. But we do the best we can. Now's a good time where you might be able to be seen more, and we're making use of telemedicine now, where anytime we change a medication, and frankly, we've been changing medicines almost every visit, much as we'll do in the office. We're not putting it off because it's important to treat Parkinson's even during COVID. And once we make a change, we're scheduling a follow-up appointment for a week or 2 to see how you're doing. So we're actually taking patients who have the greatest need to be seen and actually seeing them more frequently during COVID. And hopefully this will be useful to try to treat their symptoms better. Unfortunately, it's not a normal life you're living. Most people are homebound, not exercising as much, not getting all their therapies, not going out to groups and lectures, and they're playing golf and tennis and doing whatever you do. So we can't make full judgments on how well our changes in medicines are doing. But we can all do the best we can. And if we get together and have a common goals and common decisions, we hopefully will do better.
Great. And yeah, it kind of circles back to your last question, doesn't it? It's got to be about the synergy. You're not necessarily limited. It's the working it out with your physician and making sure you get what you need. And it looks like maybe Roger Jenkins, it looks like, were you going to ask a question?
Yes.
Great. Go ahead, Roger.
How about requesting the previous notes from your last MDS meeting?
About the notes from the last MDS meeting, is that what you said?
Yes, the meeting you had prior to is to make sure all the questions got answered from the last meeting, the last MDS visit.
Last visit. Oh, it's true. So I think it's very helpful to write down all your symptoms so you don't forget to say something. And on another sheet, write down all the questions you want answered. And then either during the visit or after the visit, keep a copy of that. One copy should go. We like to take those copies and put them right into the electronic records so we have them stored so we can come back to them. And you should do the same. Maybe keep a binder with all these and write down the answers as you understood them, so you can review them and make sure they were answered correctly. And if not, re-ask them the next time. It's important that your question is answered.
Yeah, good point. If you didn't get them answered or you don't remember the correct answer, ask again.
Absolutely.
I like that.
That's an awesome question, Roger, and it's a good reminder for all of us that we can do that. We're not bothering our doctors by being able to ask the question another time. Thanks for asking that, Roger. I encourage anybody else to just pipe in and ask questions too. I had one that was sent to me that says, I have trouble freezing. Are there options for that, for treatment?
Uh-oh, is he frozen?
Uh-oh, he is frozen. I think he might be frozen.
No pun intended with the question.
I know, right? Exactly. I see other people moving, so I think it's just Dr.
It's just him.
We'll see if,
Let's
yeah.
see. Oh,
We dropped him. And he's gone. He'll be back. Okay. Well, while he's doing that, I'm curious how many of you all, if you can put this in the chat again, so go to the chat and please put in whether or not you or your loved one sees a movement disorder specialist. And so you can just say yes or no. Yes. Good. I see lots of yeses. Nice.
that's good.
All right. Ah, not on Telemed, yes. Okay, and so some doctors, that's a great point. Some doctors don't necessarily see people on Telemed, and some doctors are still kind of figuring that out. So if you see a doctor and they don't see people on Telemed, you know, again, you can reach out to us. And as Dr. Isaacson mentioned, you know, you can see multiple providers. So we don't want you putting your healthcare on hold. That's probably one of the most dangerous things that I worry about right now. When he comes back, I want to talk about that with him. Okay, good. People have had different kinds of doctor's appointments on Telemed. And I love that you brought up a dermatologist appointment because, again, we think so much about how the doctor touches you, looks at things, has to be right there. And while sometimes that might be ideal, the other opportunity is that Telemed doesn't make us wait to be able to see the doctor. And we can see specialists that we can't otherwise see. Let's see, I've still got some coming in, some yeses. Let me ask you another question. So have you seen a doctor or talked to your movement disorder specialist since this COVID situation happened? And again, loved ones, same question for you. Yes or no? Okay, some yeses, maybe a couple no's. Anybody else want to share? Okay. Good, some yeses. Some just have appointments now. And with that same question, so along that same line, have you seen symptoms and challenges that you might normally talk about with a doctor if you could see the doctor regularly right now? Are there things that you would normally talk about, but you just aren't able to talk about or talk about easily because you're not seeing the doctor in their office? Okay. See some yeses. Okay, emails are going well. That's good. There's other ways of connecting. That's right. If you're trying to figure out the portal, and this is a good time for me to mention, we have a program called Tech Connect, and that's a program that happens every Thursday, and it is literally to build technology skills and comfort with technology. So we welcome you to that. It is every Thursday. We are always interested in hearing things that you'd like to learn more about, but we fully believe, and we know this is true because we've seen it. We've been doing live stream online programs for years now, before most people were even doing them online. And so we have learned with you what people need to learn. And what we found is the more comfortable you get on a platform, and it really doesn't matter what platform, the more comfort you'll have across the board. So when you join these or you join our other programs, you'll get more comfortable across the board. And I think I see Dr. Isaacson is back.
I am back. I'm sorry. So that's a good
That's
example
okay. We've
of
been
what
chatting.
happened. So my internet
That's right.
dropped temporarily, and hopefully no one panicked, and except me. And then we just got it reconnected and got back on, and we lost 4 minutes. So again, it's not a big deal. This telemedicine is very simple and easy. Don't be intimidated. Everyone can do it, just like using the telephone. If there's problems connecting, it may take a few minutes or 5 or 10 minutes, but you'll be able to get on, and the offices can help you.
And I would just say we planned that, right? So that you could show that that's what happens and no problem, you come back on. We planned it that way. But we were asking a couple questions while you were gone. So just so you know, we were asking how many people see a movement disorder specialist. Quite a few do. We were asking how many people have seen their movement disorder specialist or connected with them since the COVID situation happened. And I'm just going as a general, I'd say probably maybe 20% haven't, or at least in the people that replied. And then I asked how many people had symptoms that they would normally talk about with their doctor that they haven't brought up with because they don't have an opportunity to see their doctor. So those were some of the questions that we asked, but in the meantime, you had a couple other ones. So one question was, I'm freezing a lot. Are there options to treat that? And can those be treated via telemedicine?
So it's a very good question. And it's a good question because it really highlights something you have to think about when you're doing telemedicine. Words matter, right? We invented this word off. What does off mean? Off means your medicines are not working. Like if you have symptoms, your medicines aren't working, we call that an off episode. Freezing has meaning also. Freezing can have lots of meanings. I don't have freezing in the temperature wise, and because I'm in Florida, it's hot. But if some people feel cold all the time, if that's your problem, explain that. If you're in the middle of walking and you're walking around a corner or into a crowd or through a doorway, your feet can get stuck for a few seconds, sort of as you're walking, and then suddenly it gets stuck, and then you can walk again. That's called freezing of gait. That's probably what you mean by your question. Other people call freezing when they first stand up, and they have to wait a second or two before they can get going because their feet are stuck. We call that start hesitation, a particular type of freezing of gait. Some people find that start hesitation when they get up and try to walk, or freezing of gait while they're in the middle of walking, occurs during off episodes. And if that's the case, we have to treat the off episodes with all the different medicines we have to try to improve the off episodes. Some people find, though, it happens even when the medicines are working. Then we have to try different types of medicines that work in different ways to try to improve that freezing. So it's important to really think about the symptoms and describe them. Don't let your doctors, nurses just cut you off after a word or two. Make sure you're really explaining when it happens, how it affects you. And try not to fall into the trap of using words that other people have made up. Try to use it in your own words.
Ooh, what a great, and you're right, because you are losing one sense because you're not right there with the person. So you lose the touch. So words become even more important. That's great advice. Somebody wanted to know, do you get billed for a copay, and how does that work?
Well, yes. Before you have a telemedicine visit, whether it's by the video link like this, even if it's by phone, you'll be asked to agree that it's okay. Because while it's covered by Medicare, Medicare has rules, and part of those rules is that except in cases where it's a financial hardship, copays have to be collected. The copays are usually covered by secondary insurances and the gap insurances and all. But yes, there will be a similar type of copay of whatever you typically would pay with a visit like this. These visits typically last and should last as long as a regular visit. It should be just like a regular visit. So you'll have the same type of cost if so.
Perfect. Okay. My husband is an essential worker. So he is active, but I find it difficult to keep weight on him. Is there a powder mix to add or calories or something, not with a lot of protein, that you can recommend?
Well, weight is an important non-motor symptom of Parkinson's. Some people gain weight, some people lose weight, some people can't put weight on. A lot of people can't take weight off. It's a challenging problem, but at its core, weight has to do with the amount of calories in and the amount of calories out. And the thing that you can control is your exercise to get calories out and how many calories you take in. If you want to try to gain weight, you have to eat more calories. One thing you can do perhaps is have ice cream with each meal. You can have vanilla ice cream after breakfast, strawberry after lunch, chocolate after dinner, and maybe a mint ice cream before you go to bed. That'll add a lot of calories on, but if you're going to do that, look at the ice cream containers that you're going to buy, because some have more calories than others. If you want to gain weight, buy the ones with the most calories. If you want to lose weight, buy the ones with the fewest calories. Look at the different cakes. You might be surprised that a banana bread has more calories than a chocolate bread at Starbucks. So don't just guess that it looks like it's fattening. If you like pie, buy 3 different types of pies and have a piece with each meal. Try to add in the calories. A problem some people have with Parkinson's is that it takes longer to eat. It takes longer to eat, the food gets cold, it changes consistency, it may not be as appetizing. You may want to have more smaller meals in a day for that reason. So think about how much you're eating and try to think of your favorite foods and make them as fattening as possible. If you're going to take a boost shake, which may have 250 or 300 calories, add chocolate syrup to it. Add anything with calories to it to make it have even more calories.
If after your next question, if I'm not here, it's because I went to go find some of that ice cream. That sounds delicious. You just made me hungry. That's awesome. Okay, but great. Those are great suggestions. And somebody wants to just put a plug in there for Chubby Hubbies. Ben & Jerry does exactly what it says. So just need to share those words of wisdom. Somebody talked about that it was helpful to hear that sometimes technology doesn't work. And are there resources to help schedule an appointment if the software my doctor is using is difficult for me? Is there someone I can call? It probably depends on the office, don't you think? Or how does that work?
But don't forget, most offices had no experience with telemedicine until a month ago. And now most offices have a lot of experience with telemedicine. So if you had trouble connecting a few weeks ago, that same office might be able to help you right now because they've been through it and figured it out. Most often, the biggest issue is when you open up the computer, the web browsers, you've put a blocker on there so you don't have the pop-ups. And those often prevent the video or the sound from going through. So you have to figure out how to get that taken care of. As long as you don't get frustrated or anxious about it, almost always you'll be able to fix it pretty quickly during the visit. While it might take 5 or 8 minutes, and that might seem like an hour, it really is only a few minutes to get this working. It's no big deal. This should be very simple.
That's great.
Don't get any more nervous about this than you do going to a doctor's office in general, and this should not be any problems at all.
Great. And if you are, struggling trying to figure about the pop-ups and that kind of stuff, that's our team is watching this. And as I mentioned, we do the Tech Connects. So we are happy to always do whatever topic you're struggling with, regardless of what kind of program you're joining. And sometimes we hear from some of our physicians that they're finding that their patients are having difficulty with a particular aspect of the telemedicine. So we're always here to take your input and attend to that. And Rebecca will put in, I think, or somebody will put in there the link for tomorrow's chat. Okay, we've got more. I've noticed that the stress of COVID-19 has increased my symptoms. I use exercise to calm me. Is there anything better to use?
Well, it's true. Before I answer this, let me say one other thing. You know, we've used all different telemedicines in our center. We've used Doxy and Doximity and Skype and FaceTime and Zoom and I think one or two others. I think Zoom's the best one. So if you're having trouble connecting with your doctor's office and they're using something else, let them know, you know, I use Zoom on this call and 100 people were on it. So, and I was able to get on it. Are you able to use Zoom? And anyone can use Zoom. It's free. So maybe you can even convince your doctor's office you're having trouble connecting to use Zoom and let them know and then reschedule the appointment once they get Zoom. Now, as far as COVID, you know, COVID is a big problem for a lot of reasons. We don't think people with Parkinson's are more susceptible to it, but if you get sick and you have to go in a hospital, that's not a good place to be if you have Parkinson's because of all the medications and sickness. And, you know, anything that increases adrenaline in the body accentuates the symptoms of Parkinson's. It accentuates the off episodes, it accentuates the dyskinesia, it accentuates non-motor symptoms and motor symptoms. So it's a problem. And COVID certainly increases the adrenaline in our bodies as we are stuck home, as we watch the news channels and not really knowing when it's going to end. So anxiety is very, very common nowadays with the COVID, and you could expect that it's going to increase some of your symptoms. If it's only increases them when you watch the news, don't watch the news. If it only increases them all the time, you might need a medication adjustment. Or think about non-pharmacological. We haven't talked much about that, but you know, not everything is treated with medication. Exercise you should be doing every day. And since if you're stuck at home, do it twice a day. No reason that you can't walk or get out or do some type of sitting exercises. Whatever you usually do your exercises regularly because it's a great way to work off stress. Some people need medications, but usually we try other things first. But I think exercise is a great thing to incorporate, and now's a great time to try to do that every day and then probably twice a day.
Excellent. Yep. So, and there's lots of opportunity to exercise using online resources now. There's tons of opportunities out there. Lots of resources. Okay, so somebody asked about, I never thought about, are all the office staff still working from home? And I mean, you and I had a conversation last time about the really great process you have. I think you've got that down just like, that's just smooth. But maybe a little bit about how that back office staff works with telemedicine.
Yeah, so we have, for a couple of weeks, we had everyone working from home. Now we have about half our people back. Some of the research programs are going on. Our research nurses are in the office, and some of our medical assistants are coming in, and some people are coming in and then leaving. But the beauty of telemedicine is it can be done anywhere. You can be in your home. The medical assistant could be in their home. They connect with you. They ask you questions, and they connect with me, and I could be in my home. And suddenly we have people all on the Zoom call like now, talking and trying to figure out the best thing to do about Parkinson's. So, you know, it's a great time now to know that because so much is electronic, we can prescribe medication, send them to pharmacies. We're able to write down medication schedules, scan them into the computer, and we put it right to you, text it to you, or email you the new medication schedule during the visit. It's really a remarkable way that we can take care of you, and not only in the same way we do in the office, but probably in a better way because we really have all this now. And this is, you know, something we did none of a month ago.
You're muted, Sarah.
Sorry, you get your life and time back thinking of the amount of time that you spend in the car and trying to get over to the doctor's appointment. I mean, you're really getting, you know, you really are getting that gift of time back, aren't you? And same with the doctor, I would imagine.
The doctor gets billable hours.
Yeah. We're able to do a lot of this. Now also, you know, when we talk about starting new medications, we often are able to use samples. So we do have samples in the office, and sometimes our patients or they send the caregivers or friends to come over and pick up samples. And a lot of samples are also available through hubs. that can be sent overnight directly to your home to try a new medication. So we're really very much thinking that we should not stop treating Parkinson's. We should continue to treat Parkinson's. We can add new medicines as needed if your problems are dyskinesia or non-motor, if you can't get started in the morning, if you take a dose of medicine, it takes too long to work and you need to take an injection or inhale something. We have all these new medicines. It's a great time to try them because you're home and you can see how they are and then have another telemedicine visit. So it really is a time, I think, to be empowered and take control of your Parkinson's and think about those symptoms that maybe have been ignored during busy life and get them focused and treated now.
Somebody sent in, this actually was earlier, I apologize, but they sent a follow-up, it was follow-up to the freezing question, wondering if that kind of thing happens more when you're under pressure and people are watching. Is that psychological or is that Parkinson's when that happens more when you're kind of feeling under pressure?
Well, I think the body is set up to respond. You've heard of things like fight or flight, and adrenaline or epinephrine is released during certain situations. And I think this is what you're seeing. You're seeing an accentuation of symptoms that may be very mild. You may feel an internal tremor, but when you're stressed, it comes out and you see it more. So I think this is just part of life. And if you happen to have Parkinson's, and that's the condition you live with, then when you're under some stress, it brings out those symptoms. And if you have a different condition you live with and you're under stress, it brings out those types of symptoms.
Yeah. And somebody has a question about, a concern about the vitals aren't tracked or monitored if you're doing telemedicine. How do vitals work?
Well, many people have a blood pressure cuff at home, and you can take your blood pressure. We have people take their blood pressure and then stand up and take it again. Sometimes when we know we want to check blood pressure, we'll ask you and say, we're going to call you tomorrow for your visit, and we're going to text you the link on Zoom. And what I'd like you to do is tomorrow, before breakfast or after breakfast, check your blood pressures and so you write it down and you let us know when we call. So we can do that. That's fairly simple. We've begun to use some remote monitoring. We now have a company that has an app that's on a phone, and we can send you a link and you can, before the visit or even during the visit, if you're using some different device, bring up the app, click on the link we send you, and you hold the phone in one hand and we see your tremor, and in the other hand we see a tremor recording, and we can have you tap on the phone. And then we have you hold the phone over your chest and stand up and walk across the room and back, and we get a recording. So we can actually do the evaluation on the phone that you hold. So there's so much remote monitoring that we can do nowadays. We can send you out a watch from a company that can monitor your Parkinson's symptoms over a week as well. So there's a lot of things that we're using to be able to take better care of you that we were already doing that lends itself now to this period of isolation.
Excellent. I think we probably have time for about one or two more questions. I have a question for you, actually, I want to ask, because it's something that in my recent conversations I've been having with some people, I am hearing a lot about people who are not having conversations with their doctors about the emotional toll this is taking. So we talked yesterday with a group of people, and we talked about kind of the sadness and isolation, particularly for the people with Parkinson's who used to go to the gym a few times a week. And I mean, they had their group that they connected with. And I think that we often think about seeing the doctor for physical symptoms. I'm wondering if you can talk about, is it appropriate to make reach out to your doctor, even if physically that's not your symptom, but you're dealing with some of the emotional pieces, reaching out to your movement disorder specialist about how that's impacting your Parkinson's?
I think it is. I think, there are so many symptoms of Parkinson's that are part of the Parkinson's disease itself. It's not just tremor and slowness and stiffness and walking and balance. It's thinking and mood and anxiety and constipation and all these symptoms. And your Parkinson's doctor might be more accessible, might be able to handle these, knows you and knows how it affects your Parkinson's, can make sure the medicines, if they're going to be chosen, are the right medicines for Parkinson's as well, and avoids medicines that can interact or have a side effect. And they can also advise you that maybe they want you to see a counselor or see a psychiatrist or talk to someone else about the problem as well. But it's a good place if you have Parkinson's. If you're having anxiety or depressed mood, to talk to your Parkinson's doctor about it, because it's really part and parcel of Parkinson's and very common, especially during COVID.
And I would just say, I think, thank you for saying that, Dr. Isaacson. And definitely doctors can't solve everything, but it's really good for them to know. Do you agree, Dr. Isaacson? Even if it's something you can't fix, just knowing kind of that status of where your patient's at is important to you?
That's the essence of shared clinical decision-making. Knowing not only what symptoms you have, but which are the important ones that need to be addressed today. Which one should we defer till after COVID? How do we address them? Do they require medication, or can other non-medication things be used? And discussing it together and coming to a shared decision on how to address the problem so it's not ignored. Just like
well, I feel like we just
just like a doctor or nurse should not decide to ignore a problem. You shouldn't decide to ignore a problem either. You shouldn't feel, I've already talked too much to my doctor today. It's during COVID, everyone's busy. Don't ignore your problems. Get them taken care of now. Now's a great time to take care of your Parkinson's.
I feel like that's a mic drop moment, because it's so true. And it's becoming one of my bigger fears, and I see it happening. And I think, thank you for sharing that. Now is the time to get things taken care of. Now is the time to try out telemedicine. And I see some, is that what I see from you, Roger? Do you have like a question, or were you like giving a thumbs up? A thumbs up, yes, perfect. Excellent. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Isaacson and US World Meds, for putting this together and sharing this. I think sometimes it's just, oh, did I see Alana has a question? No, okay, she was giving a thumbs up too. Okay, perfect. This is great. I think our confidence matters, and being able to feel confident. And this presentation, Dr. Isaacson, the way you share it, the information that you shared even in the question and answers, and US World Meds, thank you for putting this together. This has been a fantastic hour with you guys. You haven't reached out to your doctor since COVID, you know, it's not a bad idea just to reach out, even if it's just to give your doctor a status check. If nothing else, give a status check now, so practice it so that if you need something, you'll feel even more comfortable. Any final words, Dr. Isaacson?
Well, if they ask you why you're calling, you can blame me. Tell them I said so.
Yeah. There you go. And you just say, I'm practicing for when I really need it. It's all good. So thank you so much for being here with us today, everyone. Absolutely wonderful to share this time with you. Encouraging and inspiring. It's wonderful to see everybody. If you want more comfort with the technology, join us tomorrow for Tech Time. And of course, we have plenty of other programs that we offer online. But in our usual PMD Alliance spirit of bringing together our community, let's everybody, if you have your video off, you could turn it on. If you don't have it on, let's give a wave, and wonderful to be with everybody today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.